Today, we're going to look at one of the most unique and innovative quadcopters that I have ever seen. This is the RedKyte XDREI. And if you're thinking, what are you talking about, Bardwell? That just looks like a 3-inch freestyle build. You could not be more wrong. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today.
I'm Niels Block. This is Pascal Sander. We are representing RedKyte Media. Mainly we are doing action sports, filming with live audience. And that's why we developed this kind of drone. We thought that regular Cinewhoops were just not cutting it in performance, and the noise levels were unbearable at some times.
Because sometimes on events you have live music or a moderator or something. Sometimes you don't. And then if you're filming for a full day and have audience, then there's some beverages thrown at you when you're flying around with a screaming whoop. So we had to solve a problem. We couldn't use whoops. And well, the kinetic energy of a 5-inch, if you really fly into someone, it's not bearable as a risk. Because if you would like to continue what you do, then you can't take that risk.
So, you want to chase a human. You need the speed and agility of a 5-inch, but that's too dangerous. But by the time you go down to a ducted quadcopter like a Cinewhoop, you don't have the speed and agility that you need, and they're super loud, which can be a factor sometimes if you need better audio. That is the problem that the RedKyte XDREI solves, and the way that they solved it is pretty unbelievable. No more teasing. Here's the RedKyte XDREI. Here's the flight controller and ESC. It's an all-in-one flight controller and ESC. On top of that, we've got a naked CADX Vista, so it supports full DJI V2 video transmission. And on top of that, we've got a naked GoPro Hero 9, 10, or 11, your choice, with a custom PCB that lets you separate the lens module from it and mount it on top of the quad. The weight of the quad is only 155 grams dry, or depending on what battery you use, this is an 850 milliamp hour 4S high volt, 228 grams. Under 250 grams, all of the flight performance of a 3-inch, 250-ish gram quad, GoPro Hero 9, 10, or 11 on board. That's pretty freaking cool.
You are not saving weight when you look at the whole assembly, because we have the top plate attached to the main board and the sensor. That should be roughly around the same weight like a regular naked GoPro with a case, but the top plate is already included, obviously. So you are losing the weight of the top plate. If you build it correctly with not a lot of tape and stuff, and without GPS and with a 450 4S, you can get round about 190 grams.
Now at this point, you might be thinking, so what? I've seen a 3-inch quadcopter with a naked GoPro on it before. That's nothing new. And that's true. That is something you can build. But this is better. Let me take it apart and show you what they've done. With 4 screws removed, the top plate comes off. And you can see that the GoPro is entirely self-contained within the top plate. In fact, they've installed a BT 2.0 connector here, and we can just unplug the GoPro. We can take our quadcopter. Here is our quadcopter with all of the normal quadcopter parts. In fact, we could just get another top plate, put the top plate on here, and then fly this as a DJI quad with no GoPro if we wanted to. But we'll set that aside for a second, and we'll take a closer look at the GoPro.
I think it's like a huge windshield in the front. I didn't like the flight performance of regular naked GoPros on quads like the whole time I was flying. So that was the only way for us. We needed to reduce the drag and stuff and get the center of gravity more closer to the middle of the drone to have some better performance.
Here is the GoPro main board, and if you've ever built a naked GoPro before, you know that you take the GoPro apart and you take out the main board and the sensor and lens element. So this is the same main board that you would take out of your GoPro if you were building your own naked GoPro, but instead of putting it in a plastic case with a power board, instead you're mounting it onto the frame. It mounts onto a custom PCB, and you can see it here underneath. That PCB has the power supply for the GoPro, and it's got the LED that blinks and shows you the status of the GoPro and so forth. And then it connects to the lens and sensor element with this ribbon cable. There's a custom mount on top of the frame to mount the lens element. You can see here it's got adjustable up tilt. We can turn these screws to adjust the up tilt. And the whole thing is mounted to the top plate with these little screws. And I think this is better than a naked GoPro, because the big downside of naked GoPros to me is durability. And even if you say, well, I'm flying a Cinewhoop, I'm probably not going to crash, you know, everything crashes eventually. And if you buy a $400, $300 GoPro, rip all the guts out of it, well, good luck with your warranty. You don't have one anymore. The minute you crash it and break it, you're done. You're just out that money. And that's just as true for this. If you crash and break this, you're out the money. But having it mounted like this inside the frame, to me, it seems like it's going to be much more durable. That's just a sort of a gut check. I don't have any data to prove that. This is literally the only one of these I've ever seen. But it seems like mounting it inside the frame, if you do crash, it's going to be a lot more durable than if it's hanging out on top of the frame in a little plastic case. In order to use the XDREI, first we're going to insert an SD card here in the back. It's a little tricky to get it. You can kind of see the SD card slot right there, especially if you've got the GPS installed, but usually use your tweezers and get in there okay. Then we are going to power it up. And you can see the status LED for the GoPro right there, just like if you had a full GoPro. And then once it's booted up, we can press the record button right here. If you need to set it up, you can either do that with Wi-Fi or, as most naked GoPros will, install the GoPro Labs firmware, which lets you configure the GoPro with QR codes that you show to the lens. If you need more information about that, it's out there. And then you are good to go. But the big question is, how does the footage look, and how much better does it really perform than something like a Cinewhoop? Only one way to find out. Now it's time to take this sucker out to fly it. And I don't have any downhill snowboarders or mountain bikers to chase. So we're just gonna fly it. We're gonna do some flippy flops and see how it flies. And then we're gonna compare it to a 3-inch Cinewhoop and see if the claims about it, like handling better, whatever, we'll see how they stack up. Let's do it. Oof, well, we are high in the throttle. This is definitely not a lightweight acro, whatever you want to call it. It feels like we're at about 50% throttle just to get in the air. Let's see how she flies though. And I don't want to do any like really extreme high throttle maneuvers, because for this first flight, I'm just going to see how much flight time I get flying at kind of a cruising speed. We'll push it a little bit more. But a lot of the time when you're flying this kind of thing, you're not going full speed. You're cruising. You're chasing something. I mean, I guess you got to go as fast as the thing you're chasing, right? It seems pretty stable. If I center the sticks, I don't see any vibrations. Of course, we're going to see what the GoPro comes up with. I am recording the GoPro footage unstabilized so we can see the true results. Looks pretty stable here in the goggles though. It's about 6.5 minutes. Now let's do some rippy rips. See how it really handles. Just do a full throttle punch. Got up there. Pretty smooth dropping down in there. I'll bet a Cinewhoop won't do as good. It's going to really struggle with prop wash oscillation as you drop in at high speed. Now let's say we were going to chase somebody. How fast? That's full speed right there. That's full throttle. If we wanted to chase somebody, that's how fast we could go. That's just it. I'm kind of impressed. I don't know if this naked GoPro is going to have audio or not. I know the Hero 10 Bones does, but a lot of naked GoPros don't. But the motors sound pretty smooth dropping in on these power loops or doing big drops from the sky. Really. And the question is, you know, what are you going to ask it to do for you when you're chasing a snowboarder or whatever it is you're chasing? And what is it going to be able to do? Are you going to ask it to do a sharp turn? Well then, a sharp turn like that while maintaining stable video is a thing we can do while we're freestyling, and it's a fair test. Like, let's say you're chasing a vehicle or a snowboard or something, and they turn sharply and you overshoot, and you have to turn around to get them back in shot. Well, that's exactly the kind of maneuver we do there. I don't know about power loops. Like, you're probably not going to power loop when you're chasing a snowboarder. But you know what you might do is, they might ask you to come in high over the trees and then drop in behind the vehicle and catch up with them. Like right here, now we're going to catch the snowboarder, right? Well, we need to be able to do a move like that without getting all unsettled. So I think that doing freestyle on a more cinematic rig, especially one that's supposed to be tailored towards acrobatics like this one, I think that's a completely fair test. So as far as the battery goes, the all-up weight of this is around 220 grams. The battery is around a 550 milliamp hour, and that's actually heavier than RedKyte says the build. They say the build should be around 190 grams all up as flown. So we actually have a little bit bigger battery than they call for, which should give us a little longer flight time, but a little worse agility. I feel like we're doing pretty good for agility, to be honest with you. Oh dear, oh, that was close. Almost hit those wires. Now we're sitting at 14.0, 13.9. We're definitely resting at 3.5. And I'm not gonna be able to fly too much longer, at least as long as I'm hitting the throttle like this without really dropping the battery out. I'm pretty impressed though with how smooth this is flying. All in all, I think it's gonna be tough for the Cinewhoop to beat it. Now we've got the GEP-RC Cinebot 3.0, a 3-inch heavy lift Cinewhoop. And by heavy lift, I mean it's got a little bit bigger motors than the Cinelog 3.0, and it's designed to handle weight a little bit better. Is it fair to compare a 450 gram Cinewhoop to a 220 gram 3-inch? I don't know. I mean, they're both solving the same problem, which is carrying a naked GoPro and flying and doing stuff. Let's see how they stack up. And once again, we are at 50, maybe even a little more than 50% throttle just to get off the ground. Hey, that's life. How long is our flight time with this boy? Let's just have a nice little cruisy cruise. And here in cruise, I don't think we're gonna notice a lot of difference between them because they both fly pretty smoothly. No real surprises. You know, nice and smooth here, no vibrations or any nonsense like that. We'll really see the difference in their flight when we start pushing them. I do notice one difference though, and this Cinewhoop is significantly louder. I don't know how much that's gonna show up here in the recording, but just, you know, from my ears, I can tell. It's significantly louder. That has to do with the props that Cinewhoops use, and it has to do, well, these aren't really true ducts. These are more prop guards, so never mind about that. But if you're trying to get television audio and you don't want this prop noise in the background, or if you're just not looking to distract somebody who's trying to do something athletic, then you're definitely going to see the advantage of the RedKyte. You're already down at 14.9 volts. We're going to keep going, and we're going to run this down to 14.0 and see what kind of flight time we get. Yeah, we're solid at 14.0. Now 13.9, 13.8. Okay, that's it. We're done. So we got about a minute less. We got about 5 minutes on this setup and about 6 and change on the other one. This is really odd because I would have expected that the bigger battery on the Cinebot would have less sag than the smaller battery on the RedKyte. Batteries down in that 500-ish milliamp hour size typically are pretty bad quality cells, and they sag a lot when you hit them. But I was seeing more sag on the Cinebot, and I wonder if that's because it's so much heavier that even with the bigger battery, it's kind of working harder. I don't know. Let's put another battery on here and do some freestyle. And the first thing I want to do is another full throttle punch out. It's much slower to climb, that's for sure. big instability when I dropped the throttle, and oh God. Well, I didn't intentionally crash it, but I did demonstrate my point. Come on, baby. Can we get back in the air? We can. I did demonstrate my point. Cinewhoops suck at acro. So now you can see, yeah, as I'm hitting the throttle, it's nice and stable, pretty stable. Little movements there. That's not me moving the yaw stick or anything. That's the quad just struggling to sort of do what I'm asking it to do. If I do some sharp turns, there's full throttle, by the way. Little wobbles there, and let's climb out. Little wobbles there, and we'll get in the throttle. I have to get in the throttle super early. And, oh, there it is. There it is. It did it again. That's washout. That's yaw washout. Fuck. I gotta go find my GoPro. I hope I didn't break my Hero 10 bones. I got it with the GoPro insurance, I guess. It's okay. That's why I got it from GoPro instead of using a naked GoPro. Where? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious me. Like, where did I even crash? Ah, there it is. Hallelujah. Oh, baby. Here you are. Oh, wow. It literally broke the mount off the Cinebot. It's impressive. That's another problem you don't have to deal with when your naked GoPro is built into your frame. Let's do some flips. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Yeah, you cannot, it's just not as agile. I really meant it at the beginning of this video when I said that this is one of the most innovative and interesting quadcopters that I've seen. Some people out there are like, what are you talking about, Bardwell? They just took a naked GoPro and they stuck it inside a 3-inch. Yeah, on some level you're right, but nobody else did that before. And the main reason nobody else did that before is, well, there's 3 reasons. Number 1, some people just didn't need this solution. They were happy with a 5-inch carrying a full GoPro or a Cinewhoop carrying a naked GoPro. There are situations where that is the right tool for the job. But there's a lot of situations where those are suboptimal tools for the job. The 5-inch is too big, loud, dangerous. The Cinewhoop is too noisy and doesn't handle well enough. And people who are in that situation just muddle through these days. They'll run a 3-inch with a naked GoPro on top, and when they crash, then the GoPro is destroyed and they lose footage, and maybe their customer's mad at them. There are people who need this solution but haven't come up with it yet. And RedKyte did come up with it, and that's pretty freaking cool. If all they did was stick a naked GoPro in a 3-inch, then I'm still pretty freaking impressed. And if you're impressed, if you're one of the people out there for whom this is a great solution to a problem, then there's links in the video description to RedKyte's website, and you can pick up a kit and build your own. They're not affiliate links. I'm not doing this I'm just doing this because I think it's cool. So that's it. Happy flying.